Welcome to the 62nd episode of the Meeple Society, a podcast about board games hosted by two longtime role players turned avid board gamers. My name is Katie.
I'm Greg.
On this episode, we discuss our thoughts on house rules. Do you use them or do you not? We answer a couple questions from the mailbag. And finally, we explore our game of the week, complete with creepy creatures, dangerous devices, and precarious potions, all part of the mysteries provided in COLAB. But first, Greg has an announcement.
It's not really an announcement. We
Okay.
have two people in the studio today.
We have two guests.
We have two guests. We have Justin, our oldest son, who's been on before.
I have.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we have a good friend, a longtime friend, Ben, that we've talked about on some of the videos before.
We have.
Not bad. Just
No,
that you helped
I've
us
watched
play.
those videos. Yeah.
Okay.
No, thanks for having me.
Yep. But yeah, we have them on here because they played COLAB with us, so they're going to be. We're going to have an extra set of people to talk
their
about the game.
thoughts.
Yep.
Yeah.
But first, updates on the 24-hour marathon.
All right, so right now we are still hard
In the
and heavy
planning?
into the planning stages. Yeah, we're trying to come up with our list of games. We have kind of figured out how we're going to set up the house. We're not 100% sure yet. I think, I think the last piece to figure out is really where we're going to put the video stations, the video setup.
Yeah.
Because we're
'Cause-
going to be doing,
Yeah, because if you haven't heard,
video
we're doing,
games.
like we did last year, board games, but we're only going to have one table of board games. But since Coopla Nerds is now joining us in a
officially,
joint broadcast on both
Yeah.
of our channels, we're going to do board game, video game, board game, video game, and just
Yeah.
alternate it throughout the night or the 24 hours. So
should be fun.
That sounds amazing. Like
Yeah.
Jackbox type stuff, or
video game, he's
Yeah.
bringing one
Mario
of his
Kart
consoles.
and-
oh, Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Like
So-
Nintendo Switch stuff.
Party games. Nobody's playing like Call of the Wild
No,
for 8
no,
hours.
no,
I mean,
no.
Nobody wants to see the Murder Mystery Party 2.
No.
I mean, maybe. It is kind of amusing.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yep, I'm lost.
Jackbox games.
Oh, okay.
I've played Jackbox.
We can play Quiplash.
Yeah, in the middle of the night, that might be fun.
Yep.
We'll just, play it by ear and see
middle
what
of the
happens.
night. When everybody's slap happy.
Yes.
You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It'll be different.
Yes. Well, we've also got some interesting things planned, too. So
We got some auctions.
we're working on
online.
trying to figure out how to do an auction
Mhm.
for some games that have been donated both by us and Coopla Nerds, and we're going to hit up a couple game stores, see what else we can get.
And you said you had some too, didn't you, Justin? Or did you? Or was
Oh,
that
something
somebody?
like that, yeah.
Yeah. But more importantly, we're going to do, and this is going to lead into our big discussion for the episode, but we're going to do a house rule thing.
Oh, yeah. I was
If
like,
you
what are you talking about?
donate money to the cause while we are live on air, you can throw a house rule in for whatever game we're playing. Throw a house rule into the chat that we now have to abide by for the rest of the game. It should
You're
make
welcome,
for
Ben.
some interesting games.
Guys, I thrive on chaos.
You know what's even better about
Oh,
this?
it
There will be a
gets better.
jar on the table. And if you want to, we're going to give everybody poker chips if they donate money
Uh-huh.
when they come. And then so you get to make your own house roll in the middle of the game. So if
Or
you want a specific color,
You can mulligan yourself.
yes. So if you want a specific color, like I want red for some reason, I don't know why I would. I can play my poker chip, and I now get red for the
And
rest
I don't
for that game.
Get my red, which means I'm going to be moving his pieces.
You want
Which-
somebody to only have 4 cards in their hand for the rest of the game instead of 5? House rule. This person only
Nice.
gets 4 cards now.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Yeah.
And even people that's not playing the game or online and are actually in the other room actually watching it live stream, they could have even come in here and throw
What's
in a
that
coin.
game they play? It's like Moose something, where like the entire game is just creating house rules, where it's like it's part of the game, and like if you don't follow these rules, you end up losing. But yeah, it's something
I don't
very
know.
similar.
The first thing that comes
Yeah,
to mind
that's
is
gonna-
we didn't play test this, but I know
Yeah.
that's not what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's a fun game, actually.
That
There's-
is. That
there's
actually might not
also-
be a bad one to pull out
Yeah,
in
and
the middle of the night.
then Flux is
Hell, like
kind of
3
like
o'clock
that
in the
too.
morning.
But
Flux is
Yeah,
Flux
right,
is all
yeah.
about the cards, though.
Yeah.
when you can't remember the rules.
Okay, so we're
So
gonna
it
move
should
on.
be interesting.
So we want to talk about house rules anyway. So what a segue there.
Right.
So do you use them or do you not use them?
There is only one that comes to mind when we start talking house rules. Now, of course, the most popular house rule
Is Monopoly's
in
free
existence
parking? Yeah.
Free parking.
is free
yes.
parking. Exactly. Everybody knows that one, even though it is not in the rules. Matter of fact, we covered this last episode. The rules literally state if you land on free parking, enjoy the rest. Nothing happens. We read all of the rules on Monopoly when we played through 25. No, it was 19 versions. It was a lot of Monopoly.
Well, Uno's another one that has a big house rule. Even
What's that?
Uno itself has said when you play the +4, you can't stack +4s on top of each other. The next person just draws 4 and then it moves on.
It moves
That's
on,
it.
yeah.
You
But a
can't
lot of
stack
people
cards
stack
on top of
them.
each other.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody on the internet says, you made the game, but we got it from here. And just, you don't know the rules, Uno.
Right.
I'm sorry.
And I've never been so, I guess, pedantic is a word you could use, where again I'd never really thought that, like, there are certain times when the rules make sense, right? You have to go
Yes.
to the rules, but I'm also one of those subscribers to where you never let the facts get in the way of a good story, where it's like you never let the rules get in the way of the enjoyability.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier a lot of times with like with tabletop RPGs or
Yes.
something like that, where you can just kind of fudge the rules as you see fit in order to make for a more enjoyable experience.
Right.
And there have been a lot of systems that have gone through and tried to streamline it to try to, it's like 3 and out, if you're not done with combat in 3 turns, and just end it. And I'm just like, but what if it's really cool? It's like, try not to put a rule around it. Just encourage people to have fun with it. So with Uno, there used to be a local game shop where we would, drink beer and play Uno, and like whenever, it was just a good way for get people together. But it always turned into like a draft when we were starting out, like handing out the cards. I'm like, okay, how many cards do you guys get? And so then we'd have to agree. It's like, do you get 7? Do you get 9? Okay. It's like, if you have a matching card, can you put down immediately? So it eventually just became fun because you start to figure out how people do it. But yeah, as I alluded to earlier, I thrive on the chaos, and so
Right.
and so a lot of times in my mind, when it comes to house rules, it's either to make it more enjoyable or, and this is not a popular opinion and I get it, if somebody's just too darn good at the game,
Yes.
or if they find a little loophole where they can get in and just kind of like cheese that one particular rule, then you can just say, okay, nobody's having fun. It's like, let's just change this around a little bit, and if it gets out of whack, then we can change it back, whatever. But
No, that makes sense. Like I said, the only house rule I can think of that we've ever almost written into the rule book was in Zombicide. The healing ability in Zombicide, or the lack thereof.
Oh yeah, we if you had a canned
food, if you had canned food or rice,
Or
rice and
rice.
water, or canned food
and
with a
frying
pan.
If you could actually make a meal.
And you could,
Yes.
and there was a kitchen.
And
you
there
had
was a
to have
kitchen
the
available.
too.
So we
You
made it
could
a
go
hard rule.
Make a meal.
You could
and
heal.
You would heal a certain amount of points.
Yeah. That's the only one we've ever really...
I almost forgot that was a house rule that isn't actually, like, it's just in my brain that's
Because that's how we've
all.
always played it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because it made sense. It was something that made sense.
that feels like a negotiation happened.
Or somebody was about to die.
Well, there
Well,
was just
yeah.
like, I have this
Right.
rice, and somebody was like, "No, you can't just munch on rice and get better."
It's
Like,
like,
well,
but I have water in a
but what if
pan,
I
and I'm in the
cook it?
kitchen.
I was like, I have a pan. Can I just cook it? And somebody's like, I'll tell you what. If you can find water, then you can have it.
Yep.
I think that's exactly what happened.
It's probably
And
very close.
I'm not gonna lie, it was probably me.
Well, we figured. Okay, they used the pan as a weapon. At
Yes.
the beginning. It's one of the first weapons you get.
Yes.
But whatever did they use the rice and the water
There
for?
were certain scenarios where you had to have so much food.
Oh.
That was part of the end game goals.
Well,
You
yeah.
use the
Yeah.
rice to ruin. I'm sorry. You use the water to ruin the cell phone, and then you use the rice to bring it back.
to bring it back. So there you go. So the humans are the cell phone. See?
Yeah.
Okay.
It
Well,
all
there you
makes
go.
sense. It's all canon now.
Oh goodness.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, I think house rules have their place in certain
In certain
circumstances.
games.
I like some of the games that literally state, "Here's the rules," but you know what? It's your game. Do with it as you will. So I get that.
Mm-hmm.
especially on games that don't outline the rules very well. No spoilers there.
What a transition.
Well, we're not transitioning that far yet.
No.
Yeah.
We had, I was going to say, with your comment there, I was listening to a Dice Tower podcast, and somebody asked that question about Tom. It was like house rules, and they said they seen a game that it said, here's the base of the game. You can make up your own rules for it. And he lost it.
There's a difference
like,
between making up your own rules and adding a few in that makes sense.
Right. But he had one that, here was the base, you make up rules as you go. And he
I
goes,
think
no,
I remember seeing that
I'm
video.
playing this game, if I bought this game from you, I want to know how to play it and not make up how to play it.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I feel like that would frustrate me.
Oh, it would me too.
And I think I remember that
I
video.
guess that makes sense. Like if I was getting like a $5 game at like Goodwill, like I fine, I'll make up my own game. That's great. If I'm paying $80, $120 for a game,
I hope you made up the rules before you sold it.
Right. I think that we never played it, but what is it, 501 or 503?
504.
504. It's like you're supposed to be able to have 504 games out of just this one box. You should be
Different
able
sets of
with
rules.
Different sets of rules for different pieces that you can take from different areas of it and make a
yeah,
game
but how
out
much
of
is
it.
that? Is like this is sorry and this is trouble. And you're just like, it's the same game.
We never played it.
No.
Because the last time I seen a copy, because this came out very
early
teens, like
yeah, it was right when we
10,
first got
11,
into the
12, somewhere around it came out.
Yeah.
And we seen it, I think we seen it in a store on our 2019 on our 30th anniversary trip.
Sounds familiar. Thanks
and
for dating us.
somebody wanted like $90 for it. And I think it originally retailed for like $45 or something like that.
But
It
you're
was-
right, it's 506 games.
Yeah, and it's out of
Four.
That's
print.
a really good deal.
Yeah.
And it's out of print.
$5 a game.
A lot of people try and cash in on out of print games.
Oh,
50
yeah.
cents a game.
Yeah.
Can't do math. It's 50 cents a game.
Math is hard.
Math is hard. We discussed this already.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We made a house rule in Heat. Somebody went around a corner that was you had to go around with a speed of 2, and they forgot the rules, or they drifted one too many, and they went around with a speed of 13.
Oh, jeez.
They crashed and died. They were done.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean,
They were done.
again, it makes
Like
sense.
they didn't get to continue the game. Like they were just out.
They went through the guardrail.
They didn't just spin out. They crashed and died.
If you go through it more than a 10.
Well, we said if you go through more than the heat that you can even take by double,
Your car blew up.
you're done. And they were done.
Okay.
So that was a short game for them, but it was
Yeah.
the first lap
Yeah.
still.
And I never played with him again.
Never. Okay.
Oh.
No, but house rules take on something different because I've got a 6-year-old daughter, and there are certain times where we do have to, like, shave things just to make things more accessible to her,
Yeah.
Yes.
and that's okay. I get in our mind, I justify it as that's okay because we're just trying to have fun. It's just trying to be a good time. But then we find things out much later on where here's a story. This happened recently where we were playing Clue at home, or not home, but at a relative's house, and people started playing Clue the same way they played Clue when they were 8. Where again, we're like, one of the house rules they came up with was if you've already showed somebody a card, you don't have to show them the same card because, it's just the same information. It's something 8-year-olds would come up with to make the game more fun.
Right.
And so I end up losing because everybody was playing by these 8-year-old rules. And I'm making leaps in logic, but I'm like, but no, you can't have that card because you didn't show anything. And they're just like, relax. And
Relax.
and I'm like, I will not relax.
Pay homage to the hand.
Yeah.
As he's playing against a bunch of 6 and 7-year-olds.
Yeah, it was against my
Yeah.
nieces and nephews.
Oh, that explains a lot.
No, it was they were grown adults. I won't name names, but they were adults. And eventually people yeah. I'm getting way too personal. You can cut whatever you want to cut. But they eventually said, "We get it. These are rules from when we were 8. Let's play with the children." And I'm like, I haven't played a real game of Clue in 20 years, and not today.
Not today.
Okay.
Are we ready for questions?
On a related topic, you guys have already gone through the C's, right?
Yes.
A long time ago.
Yeah, we had
and
like
we played through all the
a
clues.
lot of clues.
A lot of clues.
You guys never called me.
I'm sorry.
Isn't
We,
that
we
that's
called
another
you for
one-
Monopoly. You didn't come over.
That's another one that we had a stack
Whoa,
of
Katie.
clues.
Oh my goodness. These are not the same.
No. There was one Monopoly that I really enjoyed.
There was one we actually enjoyed.
It's called City Monopoly.
Or
Okay.
Monopoly City.
Yeah. I mean, I know we're off topic, but anyway, we've been off topic for a while now. But in City Monopoly, you know how normally you have to have all of the same color, the whole grid before you can start building. This one, you buy a property, and it gives you a district. The middle of the board is just split up in districts, and it comes off of that one card that goes to this district, and then you can build in that district. They had this little electronic piece where you would say, okay, I'm building in this district, and it'll tell you how big of a building you could do, and then you decide
1, 2, or
whether
3,
whether it was going to be a residential or
industrial
or commercial or railroad.
Well,
you can build railroads.
the system would tell you if you were allowed to build a railroad.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're building those up, and your rent is going to be determined on what you have in there, of course. And
up to 8 squares worth of properties.
if you
it
have
got very expensive very fast.
If you
Sounds
do
like
have
gentrification, the board.
yeah, right. If you have an actual
interesting.
If you actually have a monopoly, you get to build a skyscraper, which will double the rent in that property. And then if you have 2 monopolies, then you build the monopoly building. There's only one monopoly building, and it doubles all your properties.
He built that. I landed on one of his properties, and I lost the game.
I think
it was that fast.
And see, I think that's a feature. It's not a bug.
Yeah,
Those games go on way too long.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
But we enjoyed
it was
that.
actually an
pretty cool.
interesting one. It
I
looks
love that
really cool.
I love that there's a self-destruct button built
Yeah.
in.
Where the railroads usually were permits where you could build certain types of buildings, whether it be like the good buildings, which was like parks and schools and water towers and stuff.
Stadiums.
Stadium
was a good building.
Or the other ones was you could build prisons or refineries or water treatment plants, and those would affect your. You couldn't if somebody built that on yours, one of those on yours, you couldn't collect rent for residentials.
It basically was a way to shut people down.
But if
from
you had one of
collecting
the red safe buildings, they couldn't build a black building into that area.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like
it was kind of cool.
a mixture of Monopoly and Suburbia.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was like city building, Monopoly, the city building game.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
it was one we kept, so we
Right.
can
Okay.
pull it back out.
You've got mail.
we actually have mail,
We did. I was so excited.
so we're going to ask questions here.
Like actual mail or email?
Well, okay, it was
Email.
Did you
One
check-
was
did you
email,
check
one
the
was
mailbox?
Facebook. So anyway, so do we want to do? We'll do the short one first.
Okay.
We got a Facebook message from Jesus. We all know who Jesus or Zeus as he goes
Zeus.
by.
Yep. We have known Jesus for,
A long time.
oh my gosh, probably 20 some odd years now.
Now who's dating us?
I was about to
I
say,
know.
we don't need to do math at this table.
No, we don't.
That was really rude.
It's been a long time. Anyway,
Because I could say all of us was at least 10 years older.
What?
If we've only known him for about 20 years, everybody at this table could say they were at least 10 years old when we met him.
Oh, old, not older.
Yeah.
that's okay. Thank you.
I was confused. It's like we were 10 years older than we are now. I'm like,
Oh, I wish.
how does math work that way?
I was rolling with it. I'm like,
It was that public
It's their
school
podcast.
math.
yeah, it's like, these
We're
are the
just on.
details. I'm waiting for the punchline.
Anyway, his question was, do you guys still role play? And as you say in the opening that we are longtime role players turned avid board gamers.
Yes.
We haven't role played in a while.
We have not, unfortunately. Our role playing has consisted of things like Massive Darkness here lately, honestly. And not that we aren't open to it.
Yep.
We absolutely are.
So the last
have
role
not
playing
had a
game we
chance.
were in, it was with Ben was there, and it was the gangster
The mafia
one.
game
Yeah.
that Doug ran for a short period of time. Yeah.
I remember 2 people at this table. One was going to start another Amazing Adventures, and I was down.
Oh, that was.
And then another was going to start a Rifts game, and I was super down on that too.
I actually have part of it done. I'm trying to get all of the parts that I need done before we do.
I know
I
other
have not even started the other one.
I know
yet.
other producer Jacob was down for that game as well. So
I know. I've got
he
the
asks
beginning.
about it all the time.
I've got the beginning and the first part of it. I want to get the middle done, and then how things are going to end up.
You
But-
never used to do the middle. You did the beginning and the ending, and that was it.
No, I've always had a middle.
You've
'cause
always
I
had some sort of a middle?
Drove you to the middle, so then
Okay.
I could drive you
The
to the
beginning,
end.
6 people randomly show up in a room. The end, they all died.
It's that simple.
And then they just figured it out from there. I just rolled the dice. I don't know.
Roll your savings throw versus death.
Do you remember when we were told to do
Yes.
that one day?
Save versus death. That's how CJ started the game. Save versus death.
Or no, he just said to roll your savings throw. He said, what did he say? He said just roll an 8-sider. And at that point, we had made up the chart, and one of the 8-sided roll was instant death.
Instant death, yeah.
And we were all like, wait, what? So, yeah. And he wouldn't tell us what it was for or anything. Just roll your saving throw. That was how we walked in the door, and that was the first thing he said to us.
See, I haven't played in a while, but I was part of another group online called Martlet Games, where we would do online vampire games. And for a while, I was running a Fate Core game. And so, we do it pretty often, but frankly, it just kind of comes down to time, availability. And it's always been a reason just for friends to get together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that has always been my saying with role playing.
It's all that's what it is.
Yeah. I didn't get together to game. I gamed in order to have an excuse to get together.
And I think, and I don't want to speak for you guys, but I think when it comes to the board game scene, I think it's a lot more lax, because when you get into certain role players, they really don't have much appetite for crosstalk or going off, or
Right.
if we only do maybe an hour's worth of actual dungeon crawling versus
4 hours of
4
talking.
hours of
it's
just chit
getting
chat.
to know you and your husband and your children and building connections. But it's no, we got to stop that. What are
Yes.
you doing about this dragon?
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well,
Yeah.
okay, maybe,
I always like those memes. Is your dungeon party starts off and they show the people from Lord of the Rings, and then it says, but it always ends up and they show the people from Monty Python's Holy Grail.
yeah.
It's ours don't even start. Ours start at the Monty Python's Questionable Holy Grail group.
It was about my late
yeah.
20s. It was about my late 20s when I just decided to just whatever, embrace the chaos.
Right.
There was
Yeah.
a certain time period where I just realized, you know what? If I die, I'll just create another character. Who cares?
Oh, some of
Just
the
go in for it.
some of the characters I've had die have had the most epic. You could not have failed 4 rolls in a row that epically and get upset about it.
I'm never going
It's
to be
just
able,
okay.
I'm never going to be able to grab a knife, jump onto a canvas sail, and slide down, and then superhero land at the bottom. And me,
Right.
Ben will never do that.
No.
Right.
And so I'm going to take an imaginary character. Why not? It gives me a little dopamine hit. Let's try it.
I'm never going to roll into a crowd of Nazis and yell action and then pretend to shoot them. So
Was you in that? Were
No,
you? Did you?
he was not.
That was a
Amazing Adventures.
Amazing
game.
Adventures.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his person was an actor, and he thought this
Entire adventure
whole thing was
a
a
big
movie
movie. Oh my
So
gosh. it was
every time
so
he'd go to a
funny.
movie, he goes, "And action."
It's
And
like
he'd
the
take
inverse
off.
Don Quixote.
But yeah, that was always, all right, Justin, what are you doing? Well, first I'm going to say action, and then I'm going to go shoot this guy.
Now, is Amazing Adventures, that's a Fate Core game, right?
No, that is Troll Lords.
It's part
Okay.
of Troll Lords. It is kind of like a Indiana Jones
Yeah.
feel to it, 1930s, 1940s
Okay.
type
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. We had a good time with it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
Hey,
I need to start
yeah.
working on that, don't
So I
I?
guess the takeaway is nobody really does very much anymore.
Yeah, none of us has really role played a lot lately.
But
No,
not
like
for
I said,
lack of wanting to.
Yeah, we'd still play if somebody asked us, or if I ever get this game finished, or you get yours even started.
Yeah.
Well, I've got a game that's only been half played, so I've got tons of material to work with. So maybe we'll talk about it.
Well, there you go.
Okay. So
All
let's
right.
move on to the
That
second
was the
one.
short question?
That was the short question.
Okay.
This one might actually be
You
shorter
guys
though.
shouldn't let me talk anymore.
Just in the writing, because his was just, do you guys still RPG?
Oh, okay.
The other one's like
Oh.
three sentences or so.
Uh-huh.
So this comes from Gamer Geek 18XX. Do you guys know what 18XX means? Either one of
Hold
you?
on. 1820?
18XX, if I'm correct. It's a date game, like
Yeah, it refers to a specific genre of games.
see, like right behind her, there's
I
a
was
game that
definitely
says
wrong.
New York 1901, but these are 18.
No, the 1800s.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
If I am correct, if I'm remembering correctly, that's kind of what it is.
Well,
If he's
Gamer
wrong-
Most of them,
18XX. Correct him if he's
most
right.
of them, I believe.
Put in the
I was gonna
comments.
say.
Yeah, I believe most of them are train games, though.
A good chunk of them, I
Okay.
think so.
So
yeah.
here's the question. It says, I have been playing the game called Vinyl a lot lately, which we have. It's all about going to a music store, buying records, and making sets of stuff. Anyway, so I've been playing the game Vinyl a lot lately and was wondering what Greg and Katie's favorite song growing up. And do they have a favorite pop song, rock song, R&B song, and or country song? And then it says, thanks in advance.
I think Katie only has favorite country songs.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so do you want to go first? Or you want me to? And
Well, why don't we
give
do
these
our,
guys time to
our,
think
our
about it for a
growing
second.
up song?
Okay.
Oh, I thought he was about to say guest first. I was like, you guys have known this question for like days. We just have known for
About a
30
week and a
seconds.
half.
Okay. So this was a hard question for me because even though I listen to the radio all the time, there are songs you hear and immediately take you back 30 years, 40 years, whatever. You hear them and they immediately carry you back. I couldn't, literally the only song from childhood I could pinpoint, there were two, that the minute I think about them, I immediately thought of certain circumstances. One was Queen's Another One Bites the Dust. Takes me back to 7th grade dance. 7th grade homecoming
You need to
dance.
tell Jackie that. She's a huge Queen fan.
Okay, well, there you go. The other one is, and this is a very obscure one, but man, back in the 80s it was popular. It's called Think of Laura by Christopher Cross.
Mm-hmm.
You know it.
General Hospital.
Yes. These guys are both
Christopher
what?
Cross?
Isn't that the
Is that
one that
before
did Jump, Jump?
Crisscross?
Yeah.
I was going to say, did he do Jump?
Did they miss the bus?
Lord.
Is this his full name?
Anyway, this was a song that became very popular on General Hospital back in the Luke and Laura days.
In the
and
70s.
I loved it.
Who's
It was
aging
80s.
you guys now?
It was
70s,
the early
80s.
80s.
Okay, early 80s.
Early
I'm
80s,
sorry.
because we lived on Mapledale and we did not move there till 1980. So it was the early 80s.
Sounds like a movie set, doesn't it? I live on Mapledale.
Sounds like you belong in WandaVision.
Right.
Anyway, I mean, growing up, I listened to a lot of Rick Springfield. Sean Cassidy was a big one. But any of their songs qualified as favorites to me. There wasn't a specific one, and Justin looks very confused.
I think he's
I'm
thinking of
thinking
his.
mine.
Oh, okay. But those were my growing ups. So I didn't have any specifics, but those are the either the artists or the specific songs that always carried me back to a specific location and time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mine are really weird. I just realized that when I was thinking about them, I was like, ooh.
Uh-oh.
These songs probably would not have been able to be released now. The two of them at
Oh, I
least.
bet I know which one of them is.
One of them is Blinded by the Light,
Okay.
which is pretty much, if you've listened to it, this dude had to have been on an acid trip when he's singing this song, but it's by Man from Man's to Earth Band, but originally by Bruce Springsteen.
It was written by Springsteen.
Right. And he actually recorded it,
Did
too.
he?
Yes.
Okay.
There is an actual recording
the
of
song
it.
is
Wow.
so upbeat and it's so,
Right.
Until
I like
you
that song.
listen
I like
to the
that
words.
It always brings me... Yeah,
Nobody
good luck.
listens to the lyrics.
Good
of a
luck.
song.
Good luck trying to figure out the lyrics of this song. But yeah, he had to been on that stuff. The other one was called Run, Joy, Run.
Yes.
By David Gates. This one, okay. When we were kids, me, Jill, my sister who's a year younger than me, and our two friends who were brother and sister, Danny and Aaron, we were in their basement. Their basement was all finished, so it wasn't a dank, dark basement, though. We actually acted this song out.
I am hearing new information here, guys. And
And every time I hear that song, that's what I'm thinking about. Is the four of us down there acting this song out. It was just ridiculous.
This is one that got put onto a 70s CD,
Mhm.
and the kids listened to it non-stop in the
Eric was
expedition.
obsessed with that song.
Yes.
Both of those songs are actually on a playlist called Oldies but Goldies for me. Those
yeah,
are
'cause-
2 of like 5 songs. Yeah.
Well, we had all those Time Life.
Yes.
The
Oh,
s-
yes.
The 70s CDs that had
Oh.
them on. We were whenever we traveled, we would play them on the
Yep.
CD player in the car
Yeah.
and forced them to listen to it. And after a while, they knew the songs anyway.
Well, I mean,
And you could go back and hear them and remember our vacation.
Like The Night Chicago Died
yeah.
was another one.
Yep,
But
that's a good one.
also anything the Bee Gees. If I hear a Bee Gees song, all of a sudden I'm back in the 70s in my elevator shoes and my my silk shirt and my bell bottom double stitched pants or whatever you wanted to call them. But yeah, that takes me back to every time I hear a Bee Gees song.
Billy, Don't Be a Hero.
Yep.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So, what was yours growing up?
So your 90s kid over here that was not alive for any of those. Yeah, I listened to a lot of Creed when I was a kid and Usher.
Yep.
So very 2 different artists.
Yeah.
Both coming back now. Well, Usher hasn't
Usher
left,
never
but
went away.
Creed is coming back.
Yes,
They're
I-
on tour now.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought about getting tickets for their concert, but it's like going to a Nickelback concert at this point. So
I seen that on Facebook and I tagged you in it, and then I forget. Well, he never gets on Facebook, so
correct. I share fantasy football content now on Facebook, and that's about it. So
yep.
yeah. So I guess all of the songs you just mentioned, and then like I don't know, Higher by Creed.
Mm-hmm.
Can you take me higher?
There was one song I'm trying to remember the name of it. It was was it The Day at Tiffany's or something like that? I can't remember.
Oh,
what it was.
Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Breakfast
by-
at Tiffany's.
by Clear Blue something.
This guy, I remember every time I'd pick him up at your mom in my little Toyota pickup truck to bring him home, that song would come on and he'd start dancing in the seat.
Listen, it's a very danceable song.
He loved that song, but you were like 5, 6, maybe.
Something like
So
that.
yeah, you loved that song.
Maybe
to death.
younger, because
You would try and get
I
it.
remember
I don't think you were
when
younger.
Mom
That song
watched
came out
him.
in 97.
He
Okay.
he was out of
Well,
his.
maybe
He,
not then.
he was still in the car seat because
5.
he would try and get out of his car seat so he could actually stand on the seat and dance. It was hilarious. Anyway,
You didn't have to wear seatbelts back then.
Yes, you did. You didn't when we were that age.
Yeah, we just
but you
bounced
did
around the
when you
car.
were that age.
Ben, do you have one?
We didn't really have a musical family. Most of the stuff I listened to growing up, my pop would listen to like folky songs, like Roger Whittaker.
I was thinking of that one too. My dad listened to the same stuff, and that was the first artist that came to mind was Roger
He
Whittaker.
would listen to Roger Whittaker and Utah Phillips and Johnny Cash and a bunch of that other stuff.
Yep.
And I never really got into it. So
Conway
like,
Twitty
So
and
again,
yep.
like when everybody like back in the 90s were like, Johnny Cash is awesome. I was like, oh, I'm so tired of this guy, you know, because I heard it all the time growing up and it was fine. But it was like, so I did most of my listening on the radio. So like, well and truly, I was a pop music child up until pop music veered completely into alternative rock. and that's where it deposited me. So like up until that point, I was listening to like the local radio station. So I was listening to Boyz II Men. I was listening to again like Aerosmith, just very big pop noises that everybody knew of. But it wasn't until I got to middle school where I had my musical awakening. So most of the stuff I listened to at that time was just like strictly 90s alternative rock, but like all flavors of it, and it was tribal, man. It's like,
It was tribal.
90s and early 2000s alt rock is what I listen to most of the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been listening to a lot. This is going to be embarrassing, but
A lot Taylor Swift.
I'm just going to go home.
Taylor Swift makes good
you're-
music.
Her tour's on Disney Plus now.
Yes, I
all
know.
3.5 hours. I've only watched it twice.
I mean, you don't get that popular making bad music.
Well, he is married to a Swiftie, but not as much
I don't
anymore.
know that I would call her a Swiftie per se, but I mean, we enjoy her music, yeah.
And according to his wife, I'm a big
Ariana
Grande fan.
Yeah, it's
No.
true.
No.
I honestly couldn't tell if I've ever
Thank
heard
you,
a song.
next.
They found a
Severance.
Ariana Grande on a Spotify playlist where, if you don't have enough songs on the playlist,
Yeah,
they'll
they'll
add
just-
songs,
yeah.
and then even if you add more songs to it to try not to, they're still there.
But
Yeah.
it was like a lot of the music that we would expect him to listen to, and it was actually when we were redoing this room, in their game room, and it was a bunch of music. It's like, oh yeah, this is Dad's music, Ariana Grande. What?
And I think it was that 99 Problems song. Too,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
it was. 99 Problems.
Is that a song?
That's Jay Z.
That is a song.
That is a song, but that's Jay Z.
I don't
But
see
Ariana Grande is not one.
Exactly.
I think it was like
I don't know the name of
Thank
the
You
song.
Next or like Seven Rings or one of her songs, but
I don't know.
she also makes good music. So
Like I said, I
It'll
don't
be
have a
hard.
pop.
You're going to be very hard pressed for me to say something negative about a musician.
Right.
Honestly.
More recent rock here, like I said, you always talked about 21 Pilots. So I said, okay, I got to find out what these guys are about. Their music.
two guys that make all their own music.
Yeah, it's really
They don't
cool.
have other artists.
To the point where I actually watched them on the Unplugged it was on MTV, I think, wasn't it? MTV Unplugged. They did
World
a thing.
Tour's
I was
about to
like,
come
that's
out.
really cool. Yeah, I see
New
the
album
commercials constantly.
drops March 17th. They have 2 singles out. Really good.
And I think the best one that I like out of there is Nico and the Niners.
Nico and the Niners from Trench, yeah.
Yep.
When you get to be about my age, about every 5 years or so, I go on to Spotify or Pandora or something, and I intentionally look up like what is good right now, because everything I like is super old.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the last band that I found that was really, really good, I went and bought like 4 of their albums. It was Fontaine's DC. They're a band out of Ireland. Fantastic band. But even now I'm looking back and they've been around for 7 years. So where does the time go?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I actually have an R&B song.
Do you?
It's an older song though too, but it's "Family Affair" by Mary J. Blige. I love that song.
You know, I just recently got into Mary J. Blige.
Yeah, I don't listen to anything else. "Family Affair" I really like.
Well, no, because I saw her on the Halftime Show a couple of years back, and I was like, this chick is going off. And so I really wanted to go see what else she did, and I was like, holy crap.
Yeah.
This is soul.
If we're talking R&B, every Usher song.
Every
Usher song.
Just
Good,
yeah.
good man.
Okay. So hopefully we answered Gamer Geek's question.
And then some.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then some.
You guys shouldn't let me talk.
No. This has been great so far. It's been great. So we're going to continue on. If you do have a question for us, go ahead and email it to us at meeplesociety@mail.com. That is mail.com, not Gmail.
Now, this episode, we are going to skip our playing through our collection discussion just because we didn't want to run into a 2-hour discussion. So we'll come back to episodes 29 and 30, starting out the G's on our next episode.
So we're going to do our deep dive. We're doing a Kickstarter that Katie got
Yes.
called COLAB.
We talked about this one a couple weeks ago, that it had finally come in.
Mm-hmm.
We've done an unboxing on the channel.
Yep.
So check that out if you are curious about it. There are some rules breakdown videos out there, but most of them are fairly old and not all the rules jive with what's in the rule book now.
Yeah, but the designer did one just not too long ago.
Yeah, the designer
Which
did
is
one, or the
worth looking at.
Yeah, somebody did one just recently that did a good job with it. So, okay, so brief rules breakdown. We've played this several times now, both 2-player and 4-player. I'm just going to basically read the overview on here and the introduction out of the rulebook, and then we'll go into basically how it plays. So in the rulebook, the introduction states, the dawn of a new age approaches, and we stand at a precipice. The unbridled power of nature awakens something within. Mysteries demand to be explored, and the results are not always what we expect. Creepy creatures, dangerous devices, precarious potions, COLAB-orating Incorporated provides a shared laboratory space that is the perfect home for you and your outlandish creations. COLAB is essentially a worker placement, resource management, tableau building. Have I forgotten any of the main mechanisms there? Dice placement.
Dice placement, yeah.
Okay, so how this one essentially plays, you set up your board. It is completely modular. You have your centerpiece that you can go to rest on to get all your dice back at when you need them back. There are 6 towers that come out of the center, and in between each set of towers, there is a laboratory.
The majority of your actions are in the lab.
Yes, majority of your actions are in the lab. Every player has 1 scientist and 3 minions. The minions hold your dice. Each of the dice represent different types of resources that are available to you to help build out your tableau. Thus, the creatures and the devices that you are building, the potions you're making. Everybody starts with a certain number of cards and dice and a wild resource of some sort, whether it be blue, purple, or red. You start out the game with everybody putting 2 of their 3 minions out onto the board into one of the towers. Each tower holds 3 minions total. As you place minions out throughout the game, you are going to take one of 2 separate benefits on each tower, on the tower that you're using. At the start of your turn, if you have your 3rd minion is still in front of you, you're going to place that 3rd minion onto one of the towers and take the benefit. If you do not have a minion in front of you, all 3 of them are currently on the board, then you're going to pull one of your minions back. It doesn't have to be the one you just placed. It can be any of your 3 minions. You pull that minion back, discard your dice into your cup. You're going to basically your discard cup. You're going to get to use it again later. And then you again take one of the actions that is present on the tower that you just pulled the minion off of. After you've settled your minion action, you move your scientist. Your scientist moves to one of the 6 laboratories. Each laboratory gives you a different ability of some sort. Each one of them allows you to build 1 or 2 of a specific type of card. There are 3 different types of cards in the game. There are potions, there are contraptions, and then there are creatures. So each of the 6 laboratories lets you build 1 or 2 of a specific type of card. As the game progresses, you are going to add different upgrades to each of the laboratories. You start with 1. You can start with 2 on each one of them. It just makes for a slightly shorter game. But you start with a minimum of 1 on each laboratory. And those actually are just to give you more dice. It's a collect action that gives you more dice. So you send your scientist to a specific laboratory, and you have you have 2 choices. You can either build a card based on the build actions that are on that laboratory, or you can do a collect action. The collect action is determined by how many minions are surrounding that laboratory. So if there are 5 minions surrounding that laboratory on each of the towers, or on the 2 towers combined, then you have a collect action of 5. Each of the upgrades will tell you how many minions you need to activate that collect action. So for instance, a dice requires 2 minions in order to get a new dice. There are research papers that sometimes only require 1, or potions that require 1. So there are various things that you can collect. Some of them will let you collect more of the generic resources. So you can go do the collect action. You gather your stuff up, your turn is over. Or you can do the build action. Now, where the build action comes into play, as you're putting out your minions, you're putting a die into that, and you decide which die is going to go into it. 3 different color dice, 4 different color dice if you include your base white ones. 4 different color dice. You decide which dice goes into it, and based on the faces that you rolled, And then as you are doing your build action, those dice that are sitting on the 2 towers that surround your laboratory now become your components for your creature or your spell or the contraption that you're building. You can use those resources even if they're not your dice. They're not your minions, but you get to use them so long as they sit on one of the towers where you're at. You can also use the dice that are in your pool, the dice that you have not yet placed out onto the board, but you have rolled. You can also use your generic resources. So you have 3 different options in order to gather the resources you need in order to build your cards into your tableau. The tableau is built in a 4x4 grid. The end game triggers when 12 have been built, and then you finish out the round and high score wins. There is a rest action that if you decide you're out of dice, you cannot place a minion out because you have no dice. You have to take a rest action, though you do not have to wait until that point. You can take a rest action at any time you wish by simply moving your scientist to the middle of the board, grabbing all of the dice out of your cup, and rolling them again. And that ends your turn. You do get a couple extra things out of it for resting, a couple of extra resources or cards. There's a little bit more to it. There's a research track where you can get research papers and you can get extra points that way. We'll discuss that as we go into gameplay. But that is essentially the basis of the game. So, where do you want to start?
Components?
Okay, components is a good place to start with this one.
Yep. Components, artwork.
Components, I think, with a couple of minor exceptions, the components I think are fabulous. The minis are like 3-inch minis, the scientist minis are really nice. The minions are easy to tell apart. The colors are all very different. So you don't have any similar colors that are confusing. I think all the dice slide in and out of them very nicely. I know when we first got them, I think the yellow was tight.
One of them was tight, yeah.
One of them was really tight, but after one game, they loosened up and they're fine now. So I'm not sure what that was all about, but I read that other people had the same issue.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about the components?
Ultimately, the components were really nice. I thought they did pretty good on what looked like 3D printed stuff.
Mm-hmm.
However, some of them were not as good. Like, you have all these nice resources, wooden resources, but the wild card was a little cardboard piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was weird. Everything else was great.
It was like a little disconnect.
Yeah, it was just like we've spent all of our money on these things. Oh crap, the wild card.
Yeah.
Cut out the cardboard.
I'm not real impressed with the research track. The research track, I mean, it's serviceable, but it feels like a disconnect from the rest of the components.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's small. It was like an afterthought. The research track, throughout the game, you can collect research papers, and you can spend those research papers to get victory points or to trade them in for a potion or to trade them in for another card. There are things you can spend those papers on.
Nobody ever spent them on anything other than
Victory points. Yeah.
So it's like, but the first 10 research papers you turn in, you basically get a discount on victory points, but once you flip it over, it's 1 for 1. So why not just make research tokens victory points?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, by the time we got to that point, I had so many dice in my hand, or so many other streams of resources.
Right, you didn't really need them.
No.
Yeah, and the only thing, and I even asked you at the end, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Nope,
that's okay.
We can go straight into gameplay.
But no, because I even asked you at the end if whether or not any leftover resources translated into game and translated into points, and you were like, no. So I was like, okay, well, then I guess the only thing to spend these on, because there was only 2 ways to get victory points, and that was by buying creatures.
Buying cards, by playing cards.
And by getting research paper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the only ways.
Yep. Yeah. And then, well, you had your in-game scoring if you took an in-game scoring.
Yeah.
Yes, that's an optional variant to the game, is to do the end-game scoring cards. And
each card has 2 things.
We can
you
talk
either
about
have
balance on that.
Yeah.
But each card you are dealt 2 cards at the start of the game. Each card has 2 options on it, either an ongoing or an instant, and then an end game. You got to choose one of the 4 options. You could not choose multiples. And you didn't have to reveal your choice until the end of the game unless you were doing an ongoing or an instant. And then, of course, you had to kind of play it as you played it. If you were choosing on end game, which I think we all did in the game we just played, yeah, you didn't have to reveal to anybody what it was until the very end.
So balance. You were talking about balance.
Yeah. So, and again, we didn't play test it, and who knows if we even played it right, frankly. But I know that Justin, you're so okay. So for mine, the one that I chose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like I had different choices. Like I had some really good like in-game one, like in the game ones that I just didn't play with. So like one of them was like you could either have an extra minion or go toward your collect phase, which I didn't do the collect phase that often, but it was worth 6 victory points as well. But the one I had to work really, really hard at was to get 2 rows of 4, and I got +4 for each of those. I had to fill up 2 rows, like strategically, and to get the synergies, and I got 8 points for it. Justin.
I flipped my research track and got 10 points.
Yeah, you did that in the first 10 minutes.
I know.
Yeah, I think mine was I had to collect, I could name a colored dice that was in my pool, and I got to collect 1 point per die, up to 10. I ended up with 8.
Yeah, like another one of mine was like you get 10 points and you name a card type. There's only 3 card types, and each one of those card types on your mat subtracts a point from those 10.
So you definitely have to go heavy
you would have to
into
go
something
heavy
else.
mono.
Mine was I got 2 points for every upgrade in a lab.
And every lab could hold up to 6 upgrades.
And the way we were
And
playing,
we were playing upgrades because I kept building creatures. I kept playing creatures that allowed everybody else to build an upgrade.
Well, and I just kept like,
And
Yeah,
you
kept
kept
crossing
screaming up
Yeah, you
It's
kept
like you and
crossing
I
the
were in an
markers.
arms race trying to dump all of our scholar points into.
we were the U.S. and Russia in the 60s trying to get to space, and you guys were
the
like
space race.
You guys were like Canada and England.
Yes.
We're still trying to get something up there.
Like
Yeah.
we got a boat across the ocean.
Gameplay.
Okay, so
Did it-
we've played this 5 times now? I want to say
Something
we've
like
played it
that.
like 5 times.
I've won it once.
It's important for me to say this on the onset.
What's that?
I like this game.
Yeah.
I did like the game.
Well,
There's some parts I didn't like though.
We'll rate it at the end.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, I think we've played this 5 times now. You won the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
very
she's
handedly
dominated
beat you
me.
the next 3 or 4, how many ever it was we played.
I lost by 1 on one game, but
Yes.
the rest of it, she's pretty much.
Yeah.
This is
Dominated
usually
the
what
game.
I hear when they bring me over for complicated games.
Yeah.
They're like,
then-
"Oh yeah, he won this one, but I've won the last like 17 of them," and then I come in here and destroy them both.
Yeah, he does.
I just keep looking at those games over there.
Cool story, bro.
Little
Lacerda.
cool story, bro.
Right? He wonders why we, why we keep inviting
But
him
yeah.
back.
I think the only problem I have with the gameplay is there's a lot of AP, and it's that
There
most
can
of that
be,
AP
yeah.
is what your scientist is going to do. But it's like, where are you going to put your minion, or where are you going to take your minion off? Because you're like, going, I need that one to stay there, and I need this one over here though, because
But
I
I
need to do this
really
action.
need that bonus ability.
Right.
So that was one of the points I was going to make earlier. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and we kind of alluded to it when you were going through the game types of the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, do you like playing games? Yes. What kind of games do you like to play? Yes.
yes.
It's like, let's put them all in one box.
Yes.
Right.
Well, and that's a very popular thing to do here anymore. If any kind of complicated game is going to have 5 or 6 main mechanics, which might be a bit much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think they piece it all together well enough. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of AP. I feel like sometimes there is no really good choice. You just have to make the lesser of 2 evil choices in terms of what do I pull back and what do I leave there.
I didn't really focus on the minions. When I had to place one, I just said, I want that bonus.
Yeah.
I didn't care about where it was going at that point. I was like, I need a blue card and a potion. I'm going right there. And that's all I did. I didn't care about anything else on that. Like I kind of thought, I was like, well, maybe I need like 4. We need 4 minions there. Okay, then I'll try to figure something out there. But I I pulled them up and I was like, well, this seems like it'll screw the most people up if I pick this one up. So I would do that.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it did.
And that's
remember
why he won.
A couple of times you're like, damn it, Justin.
It's like I was counting on that being there.
Yeah.
Right?
I did have one complaint. So you have a build action or a collect action. And when you do the collect action, you need 1 minion for every collect action, like icon you're trying to do.
Right.
So if you're trying to get like a dice, you need 2 minions in that lab. But when you do the build action, there's build actions on all the different cards. Like,
you just have to be there.
why isn't it I need 1 minion for each of those? Like when we got to the end of the game where there's all these upgrades, so like you can build a purple, a red, a blue, a red, and another blue. How is it that like 1 minion could just do it like that part didn't make sense
because
the
at that
icons
point
look the
you're not
exact same.
You're not sending the minion out to do the builds
I mean,
for you.
I
Though. The
guess-
scientist is doing those.
I guess, but like
I think I read a post when I was looking for some of the stuff we couldn't figure out because the rule book is good, but it leaves out a lot.
It leaves out a lot, unfortunately.
And
Yeah, but we'll come
discuss
back to
that
the
in a
rule
minute.
book.
There was a post that, because somebody else was talking about that too, that when you go to the lab to do the collecting one, you're only using the minions. When you go for the build, you're only using the resources.
Right.
So you don't need the minions there. You're only going to use whatever resources there and whatever resources you have in your pool.
Right.
So that was, and then you can do as many build actions as allowed there. So if it's a 2 build area, you can do 2 builds as long as you have the resources. You don't need the minions there.
Right.
You could go to a lab that has 0 minions
And still build.
but still build if you have the resources in your pool.
And like I don't need like games are more fun to me when the mechanics match the setting.
Mm-hmm.
Like but I don't need it, you know. But like to that point, it's like I rather imagined that the minions were like we give a
Helping
dice
build.
to a minion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this Igor is walking around with 2 brains at all times, right? So I need to build this creature. So I'm like, Igor, I need those 2 brains. He's like, yes, sir.
Bring him here.
Yeah, and so that's kind of how I saw it.
Did you look at Justin's minions that he has with the guy
I
in the
saw
way?
an Igor out there.
Yes,
yeah.
that's the white minions for the professor or whatever he is, the mad scientist or whatever it is. But it's like Igor or what's the hunchback's name? Quasimodo. It kind of looks like Quasimodo.
I don't know.
I thought it was fine. I just to continue on it with all of those particular mechanics at play at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if anybody else felt this way, but there were a couple instances where the only choice I could make that made any sense at one point was I'll fess up to it. I bought like a chump. I bought 3 red dice.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need it. I wasn't building any red dice, but because I had 3 extra red dice in my bucket in my tray, and now I got to go build some red cards. and so it's just one of those things where like at some point, and this is all just my fault, my gameplay, where again after that one turn, it was really hard to coalesce the cards into a synergistic engine. And this is my first time playing. This is truly something where inexperience totally drove this. This is not a criticism on the game. Right. It's just a matter of if the first time I sat down, I didn't know the breadth of abilities. I didn't know the breadth. I didn't know the scope.
What's on all the other cards?
Yeah, right. Like we did a playthrough, you know, like a quick 3 round. But I think Justin and I just got lucky that we drew synergistic cards.
Yeah. You guys had some. I could not get anything going on my
couldn't get
tableau.
anything.
Nothing that would go together.
I had a lot of high pointers, but nothing that worked off of each other.
It was like playing Magic with like a beginner deck, and you're just like, okay, I got to focus on haste, first strike, and the attack and
card
defense.
draw, you know, just
and then you go to play an experienced guy, and he's got like all these fancy cards, and you're just like, wait, what?
Yes.
Hold on, I didn't know that was a card. Hold on, wait, I need. I need to rethink how I'm doing this game again. And that's kind of how it was. Like, the more cards you pull, and you're like, I need this color.
and we've gone through the deck. Like I said, we've now played this 5 times, and there were still things coming out today that I had not seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was one card I drew where it's like sacrifice up to 4 dice, and I'm like, why would I sacrifice my precious dice? And then at the very end, I had 15 of the boys.
As he's talking about, I have way too many red dice. I don't know what to do.
What am I going to do with this?
Yes.
Sacrifice them, get points.
I wish there was an action where like you could trade 2 dice in for 1 color of a dice, because that's in like every game out there.
I would have appreciated a conversion.
House rule.
I agree.
That's a good house rule. Okay.
It's going to have to be expensive.
Yeah.
It's not a 2 for 1 boy.
3 for
Oh,
1.
yeah. Yeah, it would have to be expensive. You're right.
Yeah.
If you really want it.
I mean, technically, the white dice you can change from a red to a blue by turning in a resource or a card or
those
potion,
white
whatever.
dice were damn near useless.
Yes.
Because they're only single resources,
Yes.
but they have all 4 resources on it.
3.
3.
But yes.
No,
well, technically they have all 6.
They have all 6.
They have all
right?
3
They have all
colors.
You
6,
couldn't
but-
count on those things for anything.
No, they were total luck of the draw.
Those were the
Yeah.
ones you put out in the lab because you didn't want the other
That's
people
why
to have
I
the
bought
doubles.
That's why I bought the 4 red dice. So it's like, I'm guaranteed a red. That's all I need.
So what did you guys think about the art?
I thought it was
Art was cool.
derivative. No, like the actual. Okay, so you brought up like the components. The components looked good.
Yes.
Quality wise, it's hit or miss, but they look good. The art looked good.
Yeah, I like the art. I love the colors. I think it's beautiful.
I thought it was cute.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not the first one to say this. I saw a couple other of your colleagues out in the interweb, but you know, like there's obvious parallels between the character design and names to other bits of pop culture zeitgeist. You know?
Yes. Yes. In fact, Justin pointed one out as soon as he pulled the card up tonight.
The Pokeball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was playing as Poison Ivy all night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Her name said Ivy.
Yeah.
And you were green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, green. Yep.
Well, I think you had red hair too.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because the first time we played it, that was like the first card I drew was
I
the
drew
Pokeball. I was like, oh look, it's a Pokeball. We're
I drew
gonna
it
catch
both
them all,
games.
and yeah, because it's obvious. That's what it is. I mean, they call it something else,
And
but
It's a capture ball.
it's a
or something
capture
like
ball.
that,
Yeah. So
Which is
what a
Pokeball.
Pokeball is.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Which is good, but I mean, because that was it. That was something. But like specifically, like the potions and stuff, though, like the potions had a really good originality in those cards, where each one of them did something. If I could draw a parallel, it was definitely blue deck, you know, to like magic stuff. It was things that didn't seem immediately things that didn't seem immediately useful.
Right.
if you're
but
playing the
eventually
card by itself, it's like what? But when you start pairing it with other magic cards
Yes.
and other
And
and
it wasn't too cute, and it wasn't like obviously derivative of something else.
Yeah.
Like I thoroughly enjoyed the blue stuff. I really did.
Yeah. Well, and to explain, the potions, the blue deck is mostly potion cards. There are potion resources that you can collect using collect actions at various laboratories, and you can store those on the cards, up to 4 per card. And then once per turn, each card indicates how many potions you have to give up in order to activate this spell. So you might have to give up 2 potions in order to...
And potions are hard to get.
They are hard to get. It's okay, Justin had
Justin
pretty
had
good engine
He
going
had-
there.
He had a potion making engine.
Yes, he did. He did. But
which
so,
turned into points.
and I can't even remember what some of them did. I only had one on my board. I don't remember
But you
what
could
it did
only
now.
do it when you paired it with the contraption.
Oh no,
deck.
yeah, that's right.
Well, so I had a potion that it allowed me to activate any
trigger.
Trigger,
card.
right.
And
And
then the
Which is
trigger
a
card,
component.
it's another card component.
and
Yeah.
the trigger card allowed me to put a potion on any spells that took potions, which I had 2 side by side, which just so happened to be the one that triggered it, and another one that gave me research papers to give me points.
Yeah.
So
He had a-
every other turn, I was just activating it. So once I got that going, that bonus that I was looking for with my minion, I was like, all right, where's the potion? Oh, there's the potion, and activate, point. Potion, activate, point.
I see how we lost so badly.
Yeah.
He got his engine going.
Yeah,
He did.
got it
Which
going.
is what
It
I
was
try in this
yeah.
game every time, and sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like this time it did not.
And it's not obvious. I mean, it becomes more obvious the more you play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, even if Justin and I, well, Justin won, so spoiler. Hey, we're supposed to wait.
You came in second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, if I had sat down, well, I watched videos, man. I was studying for this.
I didn't look up anything. I didn't know what game we were
Which
playing.
is how he
story,
does
bro.
it all the time.
Yeah. He does this just all the time.
La-ti-da. Look at this guy. Wish I had an award to give you.
Now let his wife play, then he's gonna lose.
Uh-huh.
Not in these kind of games. We all have our games that we like excel at, and I think mine are like the multiple ways to win the game.
Yes.
My mind just like you saw how long I took on some of those decisions. My brain just does not work that way.
Ben
Yeah.
turned a 90-minute game into a 4-hour. No,
Yeah. See, that's the thing about the AP I was talking about. That this game has a lot of AP. When we played it 2 players, it was driving me absolutely nuts because I would sit there and I was like, going, okay, what am I going to do? Where am I going to put this? Normally, when I play games, I hate having AP, and I've got like 3 or 4 actions, my next 3 or 4 actions ready to go.
And he gets mad at me for taking a minute to think.
And it was driving me nuts. But in this game, I had 3 players in front of me before I had to take a turn, so I had that whole time. And if you've seen some of my plays, it's like, okay, I'm going here. Okay, you're next. But then there was other times that I was like the very beginning of the game, I was like, where am I going to play?
Well, and sometimes you can
What am I
plan
doing?
ahead, but then by the time it gets around to your turn, because 3 people move their minions or they're doing other things, you're like,
well,
Yeah,
now I
what the
got to
heck?
rethink all this.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you kind of look to see what minions are on the areas that you're wanting to go to. And it's like, could they move those? Do I have the resources in front of me that can cover
Do they
if
have
they
to
take
put something
anything?
out this turn, or are they
Right.
pulling back? Okay, good. They have to put something out. I'm good.
yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. It's yeah, and I was going through that because it comes with what are these called? Player aid cards. I was glancing through
I
here,
call
making
them
sure I
cheater
didn't forget
cards.
anything.
Cheater
Cheater cards. Now there is a solo mode in this too. Now I have not played the solo mode. I guess there's a repair feature. You have to repair a tower space anywhere on the board when you take a rest. Apparently the towers take damage in the solo mode. I don't
You
know.
know, I wouldn't mind that as a mechanic, frankly. I mean, because that makes us.
Then you
What?
have to like help each other.
Well, no, it just means that we can't just willy nilly. Because I think one of the items on it is that, like, maybe there's like a 3 in the key type thing on it, where like if you park somebody there, they have to move in
Yeah.
within 3 turns, or
Right.
or if every time we can't just like yoink, 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 you know. Eventually, it would wear out or something. Like there has to be some sort of cooldown on those towers.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind reading through the solo game, see if that's something we could, a house rule. I keep going back to that we could incorporate from the solo game into
It's
the
the
base
theme
game,
of the
just to make
podcast,
it more
house rules.
interesting. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I feel like there's still a lot to explore in this game. Like I said, we saw new cards tonight we'd never seen.
Yeah. Well, the stack's so big.
It is, but all 3
All
stacks
3
are very
pretty
large.
good size.
But yeah, I don't know. That might be interesting looking at.
Be ready to rate?
Sure.
Okay. So we do a 5-point rating scale. So 1 is basically don't bother buying this. A 3 is it's a good game, but you'd probably suggest that they play it before they buy it, because it may not be for them. And then 5, you recommend it. Yeah, go out and get it.
Or anywhere in between.
So,
there.
where are you rating this, Katie?
You're going to make me go first.
Yes, I
you always
am.
make me go first.
Yes, I do.
All right. So this is one I waited for a very long time. So like I said, I backed this on Kickstarter a couple years ago, I think. I'd have to go back and look at. I don't know. I feel like I still have a lot to explore. I can definitely see all the care that was taken with this in making it gorgeous. I mean, the entire board is modular. It's all dual layered. It all snaps together. You guys didn't get to see that. You might have when you helped me tear it down. But it's all puzzle pieced together underneath, so it doesn't move around on you, which I love. I love how much care they took in that. I can see it getting samey after a while. Yeah.
You'll add that when you say it.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I feel like you can. Every game is mostly going to be different because of how modular
exactly.
it is.
And that's one thing I was going to mention.
So.
It's between all the cards in the decks, and you can switch out all 6 towers and all 6 towers have different things available on them. And they also determine where your first 2 minions are placed. When you first put out your starter, you seed the board at the beginning of the game. Where laboratories end up in relation to, as we discovered in this game, because Greg set it up very poorly for the start of the game, because there were no red towers anywhere near the places you could build red cards. But hey,
it was a struggle.
That's
life's
a
not
for
fair.
So we played on hard mode. Out
the
box.
I got 3 dice right out of the bat, so you did a great job.
Whatever.
There
Anyway, so
I'm tired of looking at you.
You got 3 dice too.
I did. You're right.
anyway, every game is going to be a little different if you don't use the base setup, which he obviously did not do. They do give you a base setup for first-time games, guys. I just want you to know that. He did not use that.
It was great.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm going to go with like a 3.5. I do definitely like the game. I think that there is a lot going on in it. And, okay, well, first of all, we need to back up. We never covered that rule book. That rule book alone will make me dock it down 0.5 point. What they explained well. The problem is they didn't explain everything, and there was a lot left up to interpretation. Some cards, they were worded differently, so you're left up to the interpretation of
the player.
The player, and of course you're going to argue based on what works for you in that particular moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like, and again, theme of the podcast, we had to house rule a couple things. We had to make decisions at the moment because we couldn't find anything. Yeah, after thinking about the rule book and all the issues we had with that alone, I'm going to go with a 3.
Yep, it went from a 3.5 to a 3.
I said I was going to dock it 0.5 point because the rule book, again, what they explain well. Problem was they don't explain everything, or they only explain half of what you needed. Mm-hmm. For instance, the research track. Great, this is how it works. Well, what happens when you get to 19? You get to 10, you flip it over, you start over again. What happens when you get to 19? It's never covered. Mm-hmm. It's not even mentioned.
Yeah, we had to look up.
We had to go to BGG and get it.
Based on the 10-point end game and like the lack of post 19, I don't think it was intended for them to I don't think it was intended for us to spam that card as hard as we did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
or
it
at least
helped
for points.
that tower upgrade that gave us 5 research.
For 3 minions you got 5 research.
And then there was
papers.
always 3 minions on that lab.
Yeah, it's like nobody would take the 3 minions off because I could go there and get 5 research papers to get points.
Well, and we played one game where I never touched the research track, and I won by 10 points. I purposely never touched that track because I wanted to see if I could do it.
Well, you had a bonus at the end about not doing it, didn't you?
No, my bonus on that one was, I don't remember, but it wasn't
different.
that. No, I was an in-game.
Yeah.
I was one of my in-games. But yeah, that was the game that I won by 8 points.
Okay.
So,
A
anyway.
win to win.
So who wants to rate next?
Can we ask how much the game cost on Kickstarter?
I can look it up.
Yeah, she can find it.
Because that also changes my rating.
Okay.
Okay.
So, all right. Let me look. It's already been hidden in my spreadsheet.
Because like $100 game, I expect to be like blown away.
Mm-hmm.
But like a $50 game, okay.
Okay. So I backed this in February of 22. I received it in January of 24. It was due in January of 23.
So 2 years of inflation.
So there you go. All right. The pledge that for what we got, the pledge was $60, and I paid an extra $28 for the
mats.
player mats, which are gorgeous, by the way.
Okay.
So
that-
it's a $60 game.
That's
there's a lot
actually
to
not
it.
that bad,
There's a
then.
lot to
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
For as much as you get, like, to me, like, the thicker the box gets, the more I'm gonna be like, oh, that's gonna be a pretty cool game. And it's not one of those, like, I mean, the normal, like, Ticket to Ride size box is.
No.
So
Yes.
it's a thicker box.
This is more like an ice size
Yeah,
box or
ice or Tidal Blade,
Massive
maybe a
Darkness.
little taller than Tidal Blades, but yeah. I was gonna say somewhere in the 3.5 to 4 range, but I mean the rule book. I didn't have to read the rule book, so I would definitely play it before you go buy it, because there is a lot going on.
Yeah.
So I mean, because of how much is going on, I would make sure that you like the game before you go spend $60-$70 on it.
Ben?
I would buy it, but my wife wouldn't play it, so I'll just come over here and play it.
there you go.
There you go.
I like it, but I would never recommend it. Like I would never suggest that I would play it again. And it's not so much that I'm like, it's a fun game, you know, if somebody else wants to play, and that's fine. But it like, and again, it's all me, guys. It's all me. Send all hate mail to me. But like, there's just too much going on in it, and there wasn't a solid of enough strategy to get good at in order to replay it a lot, you know. And so for that price, it's fine. Yeah, it's cool. I would probably, in exactly this circumstance, I would probably see it in somebody's collection or somebody's library and be like, ooh, that's cool, you know. But it's also, when it comes to tableau games, like there are better tableau games. When it comes to worker placement games, there's better worker placement games.
Ones that focus on a specific mechanism rather than throwing
and
the kitchen sink in.
It's like here's a reason. Like there's a reason why Risk holds up, you know, because it's very strategy driven. There's things that you can get good at, and yes, while this game will be different each and every time, it's that way by chance. It's not necessarily like the game is different because the players are playing it different. The game is different because the board is just changed.
Yes. You have to adapt to a new board every time.
Right.
Which
is something. I mean,
replayability.
Catan made an empire off of that.
Yep, and it did.
But in this one, but even Catan's super simple in its strategy of it. I mean, yes, it gets complicated.
It's a 25-year-old game now. 25-year-old game.
Oh, has it been? Oh, my gosh.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Something
My point.
like that.
My point
I can
being,
look it up.
I give it a 3.
Still
Okay.
I give it a 3. There's a lot.
Give it a 3.
There's a lot to like in there, but you definitely should probably play it to see if you're going to get the utility out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, Catan came out in 1995.
Okay, that's what I was going to go look. So, yeah, it is almost 30 years old.
I'm going to go throw up, guys.
So I probably got the lowest on here. I'm gonna give it about a 2.5.
Wow.
The rule book, it gives you enough information to play the game, but it doesn't explain everything, as we've been saying.
Yeah.
It is definitely missing a glossary of cards, because there were so many of those cards that, like you said, it was left up to interpretation.
Yes.
Like I had that one card that I got my minions counted as 2 for collection. All my minions on the board
that one. Okay.
counted as 2 for collection. And we decided it's probably just the lab.
The lab that you're in.
But there are cards out there, too, that say, this is this when you're in this lab, whatever is in this lab. And this one said on the board. So it was kind of like, I mean, we did go with it as saying the lab.
Yeah.
I entered basically a post in BGG to try and find out exactly what they were talking about. Yeah. And like I said, there's more cards in there that it leaves it up. How do you interpret this card? I think that's part of the reason it just hurts the game.
Right. I would love to see a compendium come out, even if they just put it on BGG or something, a player aid that details out some of the cards a little better, or make the rule book, put an updated rule book on BGG. Of course, I don't want to have to go to BGG every time I want to play the game either.
Would I play it? Yeah, I'd play it. If somebody pulls it out, I'd play it again. But there's too much needing to be fixed in this game to recommend it. I
think the core gameplay is good, is solid. I feel like like I said, that rule book needed a little more refining.
I feel like it didn't get test played enough. It got test played by a group of friends
Maybe.
over and over and over again, and they just didn't see these things that we're picking up on. What does this card actually mean? Does it mean actually all the minions on the board? Or is it only in the lab? Or is this card do only this in just that lab? Or
Well, and it wasn't just that one. There was another one that you got, I swear you picked up in every game. And I don't remember what it was now, but it was the way it was worded.
The one Justin had tonight, that it uses the trigger ability of a trigger
versus
card.
triggering the card.
Yeah, and that was the one I actually posted. Did it actually trigger the card that the power is from, or did you just get to use the power from that card and it did not
without
trigger
triggering the card? I don't
and
know.
it doesn't explain it.
Yeah, do you get a free effect without the trigger?
Right,
Yeah.
without having to trigger it. And then you could actually go to a spot and trigger it later or what have you.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, there were a few things that
yeah, I think
I wish had been better explained.
yeah, maybe a second edition they can fix a lot of this stuff, or
Only
put out
if
an,
I
an
can-
errata and to
with
fix
a
it.
different rule book.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
No, that is COLAB. So this is going to bring us to the end of episode 62. So what has recently dropped on the YouTube channel? We've dropped episode 50 of Playing Through Our Collection. The special secret episode.
A lot of Monopoly.
You gave away the secret again. Anyway,
Whatever.
that was we actually released that on April Fool's Day. A
We
lot of
actually
people
had
asked us
somebody
if
ask us, was that
did
planned?
you plan that?
No,
no, it
just a happy
happened.
accident.
Also, our Shelf of Shame opportunity, well, games we haven't played video is actually out now. So we went through all of our games that we haven't played, expansions, all that. We did that
It
as a
was a
video.
lot.
So that's what's available now, and what's coming to our channel now is our playthrough of Apiary. That's where it was. See, our playthrough of Apiary is coming, episode 51 of Playing Through Our Collection, as soon as we finish playing all the games, and possibly another top 10. So that's what's happening on the channel, but if you still want to follow us, you can follow us on social media, and you can just follow the links in the show notes below. There you'll find links to Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube, Threads, and our merch shop, or you can contact us directly at meeplesociety@mail.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the next one.